Good morning and welcome to Life in Review. I'm Josefa Salinas, your host. Cherokee Wisdom 12 Lessons for Becoming a Powerful Leader. Cynthia Ruiz has partnered with Abraham Bearpaw as a co author of this amazing book. It's something you're definitely going to want to have in your collection. Cynthia is with us this morning. Good morning, hermana. How are you?
Good morning. I am blessed and grateful, and I just want to say thank you so much for allowing me this opportunity to share about the book. And I want to acknowledge you for all the amazing work that you do. You have been an advocate for the community for so many years, and you're always of service. So thank you so much.
Oh, it is my absolute honor and it's my duty to be of service to others. I think that that's what my calling was, and to be a facilitator and a bridge and kind of, be out here doing what I can to pull people together, give people knowledge, listen to people, give them a voice. And so that's what I try to do, and I love doing it. And it's my absolute honor to know you and all of the work that you are doing. Your work continues to be amazing. We're both commissioners here in Los Angeles, and I mean, everything I know about you as well is you just constantly giving and providing comfort and leadership everywhere you go. So let's talk about this book, Cherokee Wisdom 12 Lessons in Becoming a Powerful Leader. Now, this is the second edition of Cherokee Wisdom, am I right?
Yes, you are. So the first edition I did about 4 years ago, and it's really based on Cherokee traditions. So Cherokees, we're the largest tribe in the United States. Our headquarters is in Tahlequah, Oklahoma. There's 370,000 Cherokee citizens, and we have an amazing principal chief. And so this knowledge is really, I'm not going to take credit for this knowledge because it's really knowledge that's been passed down by the ancestors. So it was really well received 4 years ago when I did the first edition. But in Cherokees, we believe everything should be in harmony and balance. So what I did is I reached out to an amazing Cherokee man, Abraham Bearpaw, to bring that male perspective because I wanted to bring the balance. Now, Abraham is amazing. So in the Cherokee Nation, we've had one female principal chief. Her name was Wilma Mankiller. She was our principal chief from 1985 until 1995 and actually received from President Clinton the President Medal of Freedom. So this is her nephew, and so he's an amazing guy. And so he provides the male perspective on our Cherokee values. So what the book is all about is sharing leadership lessons. It's basically 12 leader attributes, things that we feel are important, and I say we because it's really the ancestors, and things like integrity and be respectful, and it's really our values, what we value in a leader. And I know that you've done some amazing stuff around leadership, and I believe that each and every one of us have the ability to be a leader. Leadership is the ability to influence others. So we all influence others, whether or not we have a fancy job title of commissioner, or we have children, or we have siblings, or brothers and sisters, or community members. We all have the ability to influence others, so we all have the ability to be leaders.
What do you think are some of the qualities of being a leader, whether you're leading in your home or leading a corporation?
Well, two of the most important that I feel are humility and integrity. Now, humility is something that's missing in a lot of the leaders today, because as a leader, to me it means responsibility. It just doesn't mean that you're better than anybody else. So I always try to stay humble. And integrity, the way we defined integrity is doing the right thing even when no one else is watching. Because some people will do the right thing if they know others are watching, but it's really just always being in alignment with doing the right thing. And let's face it, we all know what the right thing is. We all know what's good and bad. And I always think of when somebody's sitting there trying to make a decision and they have the devil and the angel on either side. Well, we all know what's right. And so it's always acting in integrity no matter how difficult it can be.
What are some ideas from Cherokee Wisdom that are the most profound that you have found that have affected your life in the big way?
Well, I think it's one of our attributes of leaders are being respectful and acknowledgement. So hold one another sacred. So what does that mean to me is that we are each individual, unique people, and we all are entitled to our own opinions. Now, I think what happens so many times is people feel the need to be right. Well, I believe that everybody's entitled to their own opinion. Doesn't mean I have to agree with you, but I respect the fact that you have an opinion. I acknowledge that, and then I give my opinion. And we don't always have to agree on everything, but in the Cherokee way, we talk things out. We communicate, and I think just having that respect for each other, and to me that's respecting diversity. It's respecting gender diversity, sexual orientation diversity, all the different types of diversity. It's about respecting, because in our Cherokee values, we're taught that we are one. When I say we, I mean humanity. We are one, and we're connected to everything that ever has been and everything that ever will be. So by understanding that, it's having respect for each other, that we can have differences of opinion. We don't have to fight and argue and prove that we're right. It's about respecting that other person's opinion and acknowledging it.
That sounds like a great idea, but it's difficult to get people to understand that just because someone has a different opinion, it doesn't make theirs wrong or yours any less right.
Right.
So how do we bring people together to try to learn to listen? Because that seems to be the key word right here, is learning to listen.
Well, it's first of all getting our ego out of the way, because a lot of times the ego is what really wants us to be right. We have to prove that we are right and they are wrong. But what's wrong with saying, we're both right? And one of the things in Cherokee values, before the Europeans came to the United States, the Cherokees were actually a matriarchal society. So the women really had a strong equal role in society, and actually everything's based on your clan, and your clan is defined by your mother. So having strong women and respecting women has always been a part of Cherokee values. And so, again, it goes back to understanding that we're all connected, we're all one, and so when you harm somebody else, you're really harming the whole. So I think that's something that I wish people would really understand, is that, especially with so many, and I don't want to get into politics or religion, but with so many differences, it's the ego pushing and driving, like, I have to be better than you, I have to be right, and you have to be wrong, and just instead of saying, we're all human, we're all equal, and we all matter.
How do you feel as a Native American when you hear people say, get out of our country and go back to where you came from, and these people came from other countries way back because they weren't born here originally, so their parents came over from Europe or wherever. What does that make you feel like?
Well, I try not to get mad, but it does make me feel angry, because what is not told, the story about Native Americans in the history books, is that we went through nothing less than genocide, because we were living in harmony and balance here in the United States, and when the Europeans came over, they felt like they had to dominate, so they would burn down our villages and, kill the men and rape the women. So, it's genocide. But nobody uses those terms when it comes to Native Americans. And so it's really, when people tell, Native Americans to go back to their country, well, this is our country. This is our land. And it's actually, if you look at the history of the Cherokees, we were originally in the South, in North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky, that whole area. Well, what happened is when the Europeans came, they actually found gold in that area. So we were forcibly removed from that area, and led by the military to Oklahoma. It's called the Trail of Tears. Now, along the Trail of Tears, thousands of people of Cherokees died, the elderly, the young people, and a lot of that was from the diseases that the Europeans brought over that the natives, the Cherokees, didn't have immunity to. So then we got to Oklahoma, and then guess what? They found oil on that land. So then there was a whole concerted effort to take the land back. So when people really look at the history of most Native American tribes in the United States, it's so sad what we've gone through, and it's caused a historical trauma in our DNA. And that's why we have so many issues with alcoholism and drugs. It's just the stuff that we've gone through as a community that's been so tragic that is in our blood. But I'm happy to say that I feel like the Cherokee Nation is the strongest it has ever been. And it's interesting with our new chief. We have a new principal chief that got elected last year. Well, in one of the treaties that the Cherokees had with the United States, one of our last treaties, it actually gave us a seat in Congress. Now, it's a non-voting seat, but it's a seat in Congress, just similar to like what Puerto Rico has. It's non-voting, but there's a seat there. So when our chief came in last year, he asked for that seat. He says, I'm appointing this woman who is very highly qualified, and we want our seat. It says in the treaty, and that treaty's never changed. Now, we still haven't gotten the seat yet, but it just goes to show that we had so many broken treaties and so many broken promises, but I do feel right now there's a lot of hope. And I do feel like going back to the simple ideas of Cherokees, we live in a complicated society right now, but if we just keep our lives simple and have simple values, that's going to make not only our lives better, but everybody's lives better. Keep it simple.
When you think about the history books and, the stories very few stories that are told about Native Americans, what do you feel and what do you hope is the future of the history books and how they might be rewritten to include some of this incredibly rich and powerful history of the Indians that lived in this country?
Well, I think that just like we're starting to see a shift, within the United States where we're, taking down the Confederate flag and taking down some of the Confederate statues, I think that, through the social movement now, we're being forced to look at some of the wrongdoings of the United States. I think hopefully we'll get to that point. I think we started that a few years ago with Standing Rock. That was when Standing Rock happened about 4 years ago. That was the first time in my lifetime that I saw over 100 tribes come together. So unfortunately, a lot of times change happens through negativity. And so I feel like people are starting to wake up, and I really do feel that if you're going to tell, the history of the United States, you do need to tell the part, the uncomfortable part of what happened to the Native Americans, because it's just the reality, and you can't just sweep it under the carpet. And I think that there's so many values that I get from my Cherokee side. I get my spirituality. I get my love for Mother Earth and Mother Nature. So there's so many positives that I think that we can take away and that we can learn, not just, act like it never happened.
How many Indians are there, different tribes in the United States now?
So there's, I want to say, if I'm correct, 300 federally recognized tribes, but not all tribes are federally recognized. And you have to understand, over the years, many of the tribes vanished. They were just killed off. So only the larger tribes were able to survive. So it's really, to me, kind of mind-blowing how, nobody said anything when they just came in and took over. But again, I'm really hopeful. I feel like as Cherokees, we're strong. And back in the early 1900s, nobody really knew how many Native Americans were in the United States. So what happened is there was a Congress member, his name was Dawes. He actually had what's called the Dawes Rolls, where they had to basically go in and take an inventory of the Native Americans. So my grandmother, who was born in Indian territory, she was born at home, so she didn't have a birth certificate. So her first recording of being alive was being on the Dawes Rolls. So it's kind of been an interesting process, but I believe that the native ways are things that everybody can benefit from, and that's why I felt it was important to share the knowledge of the book and how what we think is important in terms of leadership lessons and leadership values. So I think it doesn't only apply to, Native Americans, but it applies to everyone. It's, simplicity sometimes can be so profound.
Ah, yes, it can. Now, is there a website where people can go for more information about Cherokee Wisdom, 12 Lessons for Becoming a Powerful Leader?
Well, thank you for that question. Yes, my website is my name, Cynthia, Cynthia, MRuiz, CynthiaMRuiz.com. The book is available in both e-version and paperback, available on Amazon.com. And my co-author, Abraham Bearpaw, and myself, we feel it's important to give back. So part of the money that we are getting, part of our royalties, will be given back to the Cherokee community. So for me, I feel like I have the best of both worlds. So I'm Latina on my dad's side and Native American Cherokee on my mom's side. So what I like to say is I get my passion for life and love for dance and music from my dad, but I get my spirituality and environmentalism from the Cherokee side. So I have the best of both worlds.
Yes, you definitely do. And there's probably a little mixture in all of us, and that's what I wish more people would recognize. The book is Cherokee Wisdom, 12 Lessons for Becoming a Powerful Leader. CynthiaMRuiz.com is the website. Please go there and check this book out and check out Cynthia and all the other things that she is doing and up to, because she is definitely someone who is making things happen and following change and leading along the way for change here in the Los Angeles and Southern California area. Cynthia, hermana, thank you so much for being with us this morning. And please know that you have a home here anytime you have something you want to talk about, celebrate, complain about, educate. You come right back here and you have a voice here.
I am grateful to you.
There's more coming up right here. So go on ahead and settle back in with that coffee.